So we're going to learn something fun tonight.
Yeah, what's that?
You said you were going to teach me how to
Oh, jeez.
dance.
There were cameras clicking off, or computers clicking all
No.
over America.
Everybody out there is thinking, Michael Scott's coming back.
Who's Michael Scott?
Hey, everybody, welcome to Tabletop Coffee, where we are talking about things that are bold, but they are never bitter. Well, sometimes they feel bitter.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but anyway, tonight, nothing bitter. It's going to be great. We're working on our marriage, our relationships, and we want to make them stronger by learning how to dance. And tonight's segment, we are going to be talking about what, Chuck?
Tonight I'll be starting the first of 5 segments, actually, about helping couples to establish emotional, relational connection, having good harmony, good relationships. And so what I did was I built out an acrostic, D, A, N, and C, 5 different things to do. And so tonight we're going to be talking about directly turning toward as opposed to turning away. Sounds kind of complicated. It's not. It's super simple. It's difficult to pull off in real life, but people will watch this and they will get it. This is the first thing that you'll do in order to be able to reconnect after something happens that doesn't feel very good.
Okay, that's
So,
great. That sounds exciting.
I'll show you how it's done.
Okay.
All right, so let's start D, A, N, C, and E. First of all, the masters really know how to dance. So D stands for directly turn toward as opposed to turn away. This is what you want in your relationship is emotional, relational intimacy. You want this closeness in your relationship. What you don't want is emotional, relational distance in your marriage.
Okay.
But since this comes upon you in your marriage, since it comes upon me in my marriage, and since it comes upon every couple, you better know what to do with it. And so the first thing that has to happen is that somebody in the relationship has to directly turn toward the other person. Notice I did not say somebodies have to turn toward. It's really super cool when you have both people kind of turning toward, but it's not really necessary. What is important is that somebody goes ahead and turns toward.
So, what does a turn toward look like?
Yeah, a great question. It can be really overt, just like you said.
Ethan, can I talk to you about something real quick?
Just that blatant, or it can be really, really subtle. And sometimes it can be so subtle that if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it.
Okay.
For instance, let's say that it's late afternoon, both husband and wife are home, and a fight happens, an argument.
Sure.
Let's say that he says, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to go for a walk, be back in a half an hour.
Okay.
And she says, fine. And that would be really good, actually, that he says what he's going to do, where he's going to go, and how long he's going to be gone. So let's just say he does that right. So he leaves. And then he's gone, and she's settling in, and which is talking about deflooding, which we can talk about in a different video as well. You know, you got to eat, so she says, well, the evening is progressing, so I guess I can begin some type of meal preparation. So let's say that she begins to cook. He comes home and walks in, and she says, hey. He says, hey. She says, got dinner going, steaks on the grill. He says, yeah, I know. Smells good. She says, would you like some salad with your steak? He says, yeah. Salad sounds good, thanks. That's a turn toward.
Okay.
It is.
So you're making polite conversation.
Yes. Nothing has been fixed yet.
No.
Nothing has been solved or repaired. But it's taking yourself from where you are and turning toward in hopes that the other person will turn back toward so that a facilitation of repair can be begun. Now, if if you could go back and listen to that again and maybe listen between the lines, I'm going to put some suggestions in there of what I think was written in between those lines. So he comes home and she looks up and she says, "Hey, I think it was probably written in there, glad you're home. Hey, good to be home. Got dinner going, steaks on the grill. Sure hate what happened. Yeah, I know. Smells good. I really hate what happened too. Would you like some salad with your steak? I think I can do a better job." Yeah, salad sounds good, thanks. I'm quite sure that I can do it better. I think that was probably kind of written in between the lines there.
I think it would be written between the lines too. Is that a better way to break the ice, communicating in that way, because those two people know each other well enough that you know that they're trying to break those barriers down? They're both trying to break the barriers down.
Yeah, because they love this and they hate this. And some couples get so good at it that they love this so much and hate this so much that even while the argument is going on, they're already trying to turn toward. Let me give you a real life example. This is many, many years ago now. I was working with this couple, and their relationship was very conflictual. And it was kind of like an emotional, relational CPR. Every time they'd come in, I was pumping life back into it. At times he'd work hard, at times she'd work hard, at times nobody'd work hard. At times they both kind of work hard together, but they stayed with it and got some traction and began to move forward. And it started doing better. And then I lost track of them. This was even back before cell phones. And so occasionally they would come to mind. And one time they came to mind, and I was by a phone. And so I pulled out their file and called their home number. And I said, "This is Chuck. I was just calling to check on you guys, see how you're doing." And she says, "Oh, Chuck, it's so good to hear from you." And I said, "Well, good. Yeah, I just really was thinking about you guys. And I just happened to be by a phone and thought I'd call and see how you're doing." And I said, "So how are you guys doing?" And she says, "Good." And I said, "How are you doing?" And she says, "No, we are doing well." She said, your call caught me off guard and your question caught me off guard. And I was thinking about it because just yesterday we had a fight." And she said it was early in the morning. We were both kind of getting ready for our day. In the bedroom was where it took place. I don't even remember what it was about. She said he stomped off to the basement. And she said, I didn't know what else to do, so I just continued to make the bed. She said about 3 minutes later, I hear him coming up the stairs. And he stopped in the doorway. And she said, I had the comforter in my hand. I look up, and then he says to me, "I don't think I liked the way I said that." And she said, "I don't think I liked it either." And then she says to me, "Chuck, remember when it took 3 days to do that?" She said, "I think 3 days to 3 minutes is success."
Absolutely.
And I said, "I think you're right." Because Lynchburg only has 1 degree of separation, I have intermittently seen them over the years in town.
Okay.
And always just one of them. To begin with, it was a child or two in tow. I think they've had more children since our sessions were done. But one of the things that they learned to do super well was this turn toward. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a couple who was doing really well, and I said, what was one of the triggers? What really happened that kind of turned it around? And the guy says, for me, he said that was that turn toward thing. And he said, she really does it better than I do. He said, but I'm really doing it as well now. And it's just it's the beginning of a process that starts the facilitation of repair. So directly turn toward as opposed to turn away.
So is there a certain amount of time between the time that you have the argument and the time that should be a turn toward?
Possibly.
Is there ever a bad time to turn toward?
Yes. So let's make another video about that one.
Okay.
It's talking about when people get flooded.
Oh, that's the flooded.
That's the flooded part, yeah. So
Okay.
that's another whole video.
Oh.
Definitely a great one. So that's D, directly turn toward as opposed to turn away. Good question.
Okay. So, just for my information, the flooded, just real quick,
Mhm.
is when it's really just overload and you need that time to decompress
Mm-hmm.
and think through that process and let that anger level drop
Yeah.
to where you're able to think properly.
Usually your heart rate gets above 100.
Right.
And if your heart rate goes above 100, your brain goes offline and you can't think straight. And so your IQ drops, the other person's IQ drops. So basically you have two impaired people.
We've talked about that
trying to have a
multiple times.
Trying to have a conversation.
And
Yeah,
it's just impossible.
it is.
It just keeps getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and you'll say stuff, and the other person will say stuff that then you have to repair for those comments.
But the flooded has nothing to do with this dance thing at all. That's a separate thing altogether.
It's a separate piece, but we do teach about it. So this piece, the dance is wonderful, but if you're too flooded, you can't do it.
Well, I think that's something that people will love and will need to know. So if you are wondering if there is a bad time or a time where you shouldn't turn or it's too fast, watch the video we have on flooded. That will give you some answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So that's D, directly turn toward as opposed to turn away.
Hey, and as always, thank you for joining us again for this edition of Tabletop Coffee, Breaking Apart the Dance. Tonight we covered D, directly turn towards as opposed to turning away. For all of the other episodes, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click that bell if you want to be notified of new episodes that come out. Until next time,